Hello and welcome, Eva, to the summit. So good to see you here.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm excellent. I'm having a good day. The sun is bright and shiny outside my window, so I'm feeling
Yeah,
great.
awesome. Yeah, here it's already dark. Greetings from Germany. So yeah, Eva, tell us a bit about your background, your passion, your work, what drives you, fulfills you, and yeah, tell us a bit.
Got it. So I'm Eva Blake, and I'm a sex, love, and leadership coach. That means that I teach erotic, emotional, and embodiment skills, that all the skills that you need in order to create the intimacy, ecstasy, and success that you deserve and that you desire in your sex, love, and life. So my stance, my stand is that when we focus on our sexuality and master our sex life, and we really come into mastery of our own personal experience, that we can transform every single part of our life. Because if there's a hang up that we have in our sexuality, something is not working, or we're feeling shame or frustration, or we're holding on to some wound from the past and we haven't healed it yet, then somehow, some way, that's going to show up in other parts of our life. It's going to show up in our relationship with our partner. It might show up in our workplace, where we are afraid to ask for a raise or to put our art and our creativity out in the world. It might show up in our family, where maybe we lash out at people or we duck down. So something that's going on in the most private moments of our life, when the door is closed and when no one is looking, I promise that it's manifesting or appearing some other place in our life. So we have an enormous amount of power to shift everything in our life when we take a deep, long look and play with our own self.
All right, sounds really intriguing. So how do we do that? Or what has been your journey and your experience? I'm sure yeah, tell us a bit about how did you end up being on this journey and coaching people and teaching and yeah, being this gift to the world. What has been your journey? What was the point in life where you said, no, I get to break out of here, or there's something more? Or, yeah, what's been your experience?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that I could tell the story of my life. I think a couple of important parts are that I went to a women's college, from 18 to 22, 23. And one of the things that I noticed was that I was surrounded by really beautiful, smart, intelligent, creative, wealthy women from all over the world. And one of the things that I noticed is that pretty consistently across the board, women were having terrible sexual experiences. They were having experiences where they were not feeling empowered. They weren't having pleasure. They weren't having an orgasm. They weren't communicating effectively with their partner. And that really woke me up, because I recognized that was happening in my own sex life as well. It was fun, but it wasn't epic. Or it was okay, it was mediocre, but it wasn't fun, right? So it was like flatline. It was like right in the middle, right? And that actually led me to a lot of curiosity with my friends, with my community, and seeking out teachers and more information about this work around how to create a passionate, powerful, empowered sex life where everything feels good and I feel good. Most importantly, I feel good. And that brought me into a study around sexological body work, which is essentially the field of professional study and support, where we are trained to use our hands to teach you, the client, about arousal, healing, and education. So we touch all parts of the body, but most importantly, we teach you how to be in a deeper relationship with yourself, so that you are empowered, you're not afraid, you're able to communicate what you want, you communicate your limits, but also you communicate your desires and ask clearly for what you desire. And that's a really powerful practice, to use your own body as a laboratory. So I would say some of the big wake up call moments that I've had in my own life were using my own body as a site for exploration, with intentionality and mindfulness, and with a real focus on how do I unpack, dismantle my own shame? How do I heal myself? I don't have to wait for somebody else. I don't have to go to somebody else to to fix me, I don't have to wait for the perfect partner, that I actually can create my own sexual identity and my own sexual pleasure. And then when I want to, then I can share it with somebody when they have, earned the privilege to be part of that with me. So it's really about elevating my own sexual experience, identity, mastery, and then sharing it with another person.
Yeah, awesome. So when you're describing this, you wanted it to be epic. I'm wondering, so if I'm a person and my sex life is not epic, but in society that paints a certain picture of how sex lives or what it's supposed to be, and I believe also to a huge part we are being lied to actually, and it's different for each person anyway, but in general. So how can I know where to set the expectations, or I want it to be epic, I'm not more epic, but then I have these expectations, and how do I know which lays within reality, let's say, or is realistic for me, and how do I embark on that journey?
Yeah. Well, I would caution everyone, with a grain of salt, like expectation and reality it's all perception, right? So it's not actually, expectation and reality is not really a fair metric. It's not even really a supportive metric for you to even, use as criteria to measure, like, are you having a successful experience, right? So most importantly, it's what do you want? What do you want to feel? How do you want to feel about yourself? How do you want to think about yourself, right? So, yes, I do think that, epic kind of as a word can kind of sugarcoat or kind of put this idea that like every single time I feel aroused, I should have like Olympic style hanging from the chandelier sexual experience where there's like fireworks going off and like I've like had this like communion with God. Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And that doesn't happen every time. It just doesn't, right? But for me, part of my development in thinking about sexual experience is really about what do I want? So let me give you some examples, right? When I think about what do I want in my sexual life? What's my vision for my sexual life? It's about passion and intimacy. It's about diversity. I want to have a diverse range of experiences, right? And that's what I've created for myself. So I've created soft, caressing, sweet, not a lot of movement, but deep, deep feeling and closeness, and where I can close my eyes and like the rest of the world just washes away, and I feel like I'm like at the ocean, like I can hear the waves as someone touches my skin, like epic.
Yeah.
And I have been in 100,000 square foot dungeon with 300 people there and have played in front of lots of people and created a big scene and worn whips and chains and lots of leather and screamed at somebody and beat them and had a fantastic time. And that was an epic experience.
Wow.
Right? So it doesn't have to look a certain way. It's really about how you want to define it for yourself. And part of where we are kind of in the world around sexuality is that we have these ideas of like what really good looks like. And many people like are striving towards that thing that's really good. Or, we look at Cosmo magazine, it's like, 20 ways to please your lover. And these are the sexual activities that you can do in order to please your lover. And so they're really like activity focused, right? And at the same time, we live in a really sex negative culture that teaches us that we should be ashamed of wanting sex. If we want it, we'll be punished. If we're not having it, that we should be made fun of. If we're masturbating and we have a partner, then there's something wrong with us. If we masturbate at all, then there's something wrong with us. If we watch pornography, blah, 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 right? All of that. So one of the most important things I think in life, it's about anchoring ourselves in a space of sex neutrality, which is that, I'm not upset about what I'm experiencing, and I'm not like, I'm not desperate for something else to change. And so what I mean by that, anchoring in sex neutrality is like, it's like the difference between looking in the mirror and being like, my thighs are fat, my breasts are saggy, I have gray hair, rather than looking in the mirror and being like, I have got 2 legs, I've got 2 breasts, I have gray hair, right? It's about letting go of the judgment, right? And anchoring in a place that is neutral, because that actually creates massive space for us then to be curious, like, well, what would a great experience for you be? Soft and sensual and cuddly and sweet, or wild and debaucherous and public and exhibitionist, and guess what? You can have the entire range plus some, right? And that's the whole point of exploring your sexuality, is that you can have all of the things, and that here's the other part, is that there's no there. There's no, you don't get to a place and then you're like, okay, this is it. I'm totally complete and finished and I never want anything else.
Yeah. True.
Right? Because what you wanted at 25 is probably not going to be the thing that you want at 65.
Probably.
Your body changes, you've created more experience, your health changes, things change.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the other thing about sexuality, is that generally it changes over time. As you change, you mature, you transform, your body shifts, etc. So I think that, to go back to answer your question, this idea about like epic, right? It's really about you exploring for yourself about what you desire and claiming your power in that exploration, so that you are owning who you are as a sexual person, and you don't let anybody else tell you what's right for you. You define that for yourself.
Yeah, great. So let's say you've had a lot of you're starting in a place you have had bad sexual experience, trauma, or just being raised in different lies or thoughts, and you would like to reset your, you know what I mean? Try to explain, like, for example, you described sounds and imagination and what will I like, but usually when we ask those questions, we come already from a place of experience and we are pre-program, whatever you want to call it. So do you help clients, and if you do, and they come to you asking for help, what tools do you use to kind of reset that in your body and in your brain, and have like a neutral, because you were talking about anchoring in sexual neutrality, but usually we don't have a neutrality. So how do I get there? How do I reset myself to start?
So one of the most powerful exercises that I do with my clients, that I've done, with people for more than a decade, is what I call mindful masturbation. And the whole purpose of it is about creating a time and space in your life, in your day, in your week, where you're present. You're just present with yourself. Now, mindful masturbation, it's prickly for a lot of people, because a lot of people think about masturbation as I touch my genitals and then I create an orgasm. And the whole purpose of this exercise is actually to burst through that notion. It is to, it's really about being present, being mentally present and physically present with your physical body, being mentally present and physically present with your eroticism. And it's a process of being curious. Do I like the way this feels? What would happen if I did this? What would that feel like? Do I like that? I mean, it's really about giving yourself the opportunity to experiment and explore. And so for some people, that looks like 20 minutes of, trying on bras and panties that they purchased, and like strutting around in front of the mirror, and then massaging themselves and putting lotion on. And for some people, that's, on the far side, that's people, what it might look like for somebody else is practicing specific kind of custom tailored exercises that are specifically around regulating their arousal. So increasing their arousal and maintaining that high level of arousal, or it's about bringing it up and bringing it down and bringing it up and bringing it down. Right. And so it looks different. Some people don't touch their genitals at all. And some people that's almost all that they do. Right. But the purpose of it is about being emotionally and physically and mentally present for the experience, because far too often we check out of when we start to get aroused, we check out some way. Either we start worrying, oh my God, is my partner having a good time? Oh my God, my ass is too fat. Oh my God, my erection is not going to work anymore. What if so-and-so doesn't like this? And so as soon as we start thinking those things, we leave the relationship of the moment. So mindful masturbation is all about staying present and being in the moment. And so one of the reasons why it's so valuable is because it's one of the best ways to confront the judginess, the messages that we've received, the stuff that comes up in those moments, and we actually get to recognize it, you know, and through the coaching process, you know, we unpack it and we work with these previous messages that, you know, you've received about good or bad, right or wrong, you know? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you work with your clients and you do this work, from your experience, what has been the biggest blockages, let's say, in most people? Like what they, I mean, to me, I'm just thinking about if I would go into this session, it would already cost me a lot to surrender myself to my coach or the person who will train me. Already that would be a blockage. And then of course there will, so what's your experience? I'm just curious, like, manifested the most in people, what's showing up. And then I came across genital mapping. You mentioned that in one of your videos, and anal massage. So I'm like, those are new techniques. I've heard about them. I'm going to experiment with them as well at some point. And yeah, but I'd like to hear like how to approach these new techniques I want to try. How do I communicate to my partner about it? And what are the benefits of them if one wants that? Oh, actually, that was 2 questions. So
those 2 questions, they're big. So let me go over here and then I'll go this way. Okay. So in terms of like the big obstacles, there's no one thing. Essentially, it's whatever is cluttering the space between where you are now and where you want to be. And for most of us, it's what you mentioned a moment ago, which is the early messages that you received, the kind of programming that you have up until now, right? The experience of shame or trauma in the past that has not been healed and worked through and discharged out of the body. It's some level of fear that something bad is going to happen, right? So all that stuff is the stuff that gets in the way. Right. And like I said at the very beginning, if it gets in the way in your sex life, guaranteed it's getting in the way someplace else in your life. Right. So that's what I mean. It's the clutter, right? So all the stuff that we do to address the clutter, we do mindset work, belief work, we do emotional intelligence work. We do a lot of this through the body, because the body is what holds on to this emotional memory, right? And when the body holds this emotional memory, then the body contracts, it constricts, it holds tight. So there's a big difference. From this position, I'm not going to feel very aroused. But from this position, it's going to move a lot easier in my system. When my shoulders are back, my shoulder blades are down, when my tits are out, when I'm open, right? So working with the body in this way actually allows us to move energy, move emotional energy as well. So let's talk about anal massage or genital mapping, or there's a variety of like specific kinds of exercises that we do in sexological body work. And I mean, let's just take anal massage, for example. It's not for everybody, right? But it's actually a really valuable tool to release long held tension in the body, because the way that your anus is designed and your anal sphincters are designed, that they're designed to hold tight, right? Because what would happen if your anus was open all the time? It'd be very messy. Right? It'd be very messy, right? But what happens is that the nature of the asshole is that it holds on very tight. And so most of us, when we get anxious, when we get scared, when we get fearful, when we get surprised, we clamp our butthole, we tighten up, it tightens our hips, it tightens our belly, it tightens the pelvis. And for some people, it goes all the way up here, where now we're only breathing right here. Right? So anal massage is actually a really valuable tool to be in a conscious, again, mindful, conscious, intentional relationship with your anus as a tool to release the tension, to relax, to experience full body relaxation and tension release, right? And yes, it's also super pleasurable. And yes, it can be, it can be linked or tied into prostate massage or, general rectal health. People who have hemorrhoids can benefit from anal massage, right? Because again, you're releasing the tension and you can tuck those hemorrhoids back in. So there's a variety of ways in which certain kinds of sexological body work practices like anal massage have a variety of benefits to them that are sometimes, emotional, physical, kind of psychological, right? And sometimes combine all of them, as well as pleasurable and delicious and something that you may want to do with your partner.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that, you asked this question, like, how would I talk to my partner about this? And I think that what's so important about any part of sexuality is that my stand is that you practice it on yourself first. You explore it on yourself first, so that when you are communicating with your partner, you're communicating from a place of, this is what I know already about me. And this is what I get to share with you about me.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, can we try this thing I've never tried before? And I don't know anything about it. And I want you to be the leader on me.
Yeah.
As you said a moment ago, you said, well, I'm going to open myself, or I'm going to put myself, in the power in the hands of somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Very intimate.
It's super intimate.
Yeah.
Right. But you're also depending on that person to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Whereas so much about sexuality is about you actually have the answers inside of you.
So just for guys, is it possible just to do yourself a prostate massage to yourself? Is that actually possible?
Yeah, absolutely. There's self-anal massage. Right. You and I can do it with our bodies. Anybody can do it with their body, as long as you can reach.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of ways to create the experience, whether you're with yourself or you're with a partner or you're working specifically with a practitioner who is a sexological body worker. And then you get to have, you get to have an experience based on that.
Sounds adventurous, really. So what is genitals mapping actually?
Yeah. So genital mapping is essentially the process of exploring your genitals in a conscientious way that allows you to essentially map where you like the touch, and what kind of touch you like.
Yeah, I read that and I tried on myself the vagina mapping, but I from your video, I think I heard it was general, but I never heard about it on guys. So does it also is valid on men as well?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of genitals that you have. You can map your genitals. You can actually map your entire body. I mean, just think of it as a map, right? When you look at a map of, say, your city, right? You have streets, you have markers, you know where the edges of town are, right? And for you, you'd be able to look at it and say, I like that part of the city the best, right? And then that's my second favorite. And I really like going over here on holiday.
Yeah.
Right. So you do the same thing with the body, the entire body,
How would you start, like by touching, or I mean, different areas can like different stuff,
Yeah.
So because that actually would be for our audience, a great exercise or stretch, like go do mapping. And where would you start, like just to get it practical for people, just by touching or kissing or taking something, or like what would you do?
Yeah. So when we think about mapping, and mapping is really an exploration of curiosity. What do I like, right? What does this feel like? And do I like it? That's it. What does this feel like? Do I like it? Make it very, very simple. It doesn't have to turn you on. It doesn't have to mean that you're like, again, having this like fireworks explosion and unity with the divine. It doesn't have to mean any of that, right? What does it feel like? What do I like? So we're looking at a couple things. We're looking at texture, right? So is that a feather or is it like sandpaper? Texture. We're looking at pressure. Is it very, very light or very, very hard and deep? Right? And talking about, am I pressing hard or am I touching very lightly? We're talking about frequency. Is it a very slow touch or is it very, very fast?
Yeah.
Okay, frequency. Frequency and pace are very similar. Like what is your pace?
Yeah.
Is this, if you're touching like little taps like this, right? Or very, very fast. So, and those are the primary, I would say those are the primary elements for starting, starting in a place. And really, you can do that all over the body. And the purpose of that is to map different parts of the body in the same way that if somebody's ever given you a shoulder massage, they usually kind of start out here on the shoulders with big motions, right? And then maybe they like find a knot and they get in there with their thumbs.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that.
Right. And so there's some, there's some elements of your shoulder that doesn't like the big, deep thumbs.
Yeah.
It just wants the hands to rub the back.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So it doesn't matter if you have a penis, if you have a vagina, it doesn't matter if we're talking about your butthole or your foot or your nipple or, the back of your neck. It's all the same idea here, the same framework.
Yeah. So just one last question, but we don't have to go into details how to reset this. But let's say, there's always this myth or this thing out there that women have to enjoy like their nipples being played with or something. That will be one part of it. And I've heard so many women that are like, no, it doesn't do anything to me. And then there's this like, is something wrong with me, So nipples is something you can accept. I'm the person like I would like don't touch me. And I'm okay with that, but I've asked myself, is this normal or not? And especially after breastfeeding kids, and that I wanted to reset. Oh, I was wondering, do I believe or do my body thinks they don't like it because of messages before? And how can I find this out or reset it? Well, with nipples, not that important, maybe, but like let's say for orgasms, some women cannot have orgasms, and there's something happened within their vagina, let's say, and how to reset this actually. Can you go into the body and reset it? Or if they don't want to work with somebody else, is there some ways one could try to work with these spots that are numb or that are maybe uncomfortable, but they're actually really supposed to be okay?
Yeah. So there's a couple different things that you're bringing up here. One is I caution people against the word normal because there's not a normal. What works for you may not work for me. And we can get together 1,000 different women and only 2 other women think that what works for you works for them. And that's fine. That's awesome, actually. Now, there may be a regular for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a regular for me, which means like when I use my vibrator in this specific way, when I'm thinking about this specific thing, that regularly works. And that's awesome. We get to celebrate that. We get to celebrate that. And just like you, for me, if you regularly touch my nipple, I will regularly hit you in the face.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. Don't do it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no judgment about it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, that doesn't work for me. So I don't need to fight it. I just get to celebrate what works for me.
Exactly.
Right. Here's the thing. You mentioned this idea about like sensitivity and non-sensitivity. Over the course of our lifetime, our bodies are going to change. So our levels of sensitivity are going to shift. You have breastfed children. So your nipple sensitivity has changed over time.
Yeah.
Right? The shape of it's changed. Its function has changed. Like before you had children, you were not using it as a way to feed somebody.
Yeah.
Then you use it to feed somebody. And while that was happening, it probably was more sensitive. It might have been rougher, scratchier. It might have felt like it was pulled at. It might have hurt, might have been tender, right? And so you might not have really been like, nobody touch me.
Yeah.
Right? You might have even like kind of protected or guarded yourself because it was so sensitive, right? Now, just using the nipple as an example for you, this is a great mindful masturbation exercise for you to touch your own breasts, the entire breasts, not just the nipple, because the nipple is connected to the breast. And one of the reasons why a lot of women don't like their nipple touch is because they get this kind of action from people who just want to touch their nipples and don't want to touch their entire breast.
Oh,
And they themselves, many women don't massage their entire breasts or their chest, and the breast doesn't feel integrated into the rest of the body.
Mhm.
So yeah, the way that you work with that is about integrating this part of you with the rest of you. So the nipple is now integrated into the breast, integrated into the torso and the chest, right? And integrated into the entire body. So again, if we come back to pleasure mapping, it's let's explore different sensations and frequency and texture and pressure. And it's less about, am I doing this the right way? And it's more about what do I like? What feels good to me? And again, what feels good to me is like what's soothing, what's arousing. Sometimes soothing and arousing are the same thing, but sometimes they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I may touch myself in a way that calms me and relaxes me. That may be a very different kind of touch than when I want to like amp up the volume, right? And like bounce off the walls. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of this, mindful masturbation, of this practice, a solo sex practice, is about discovering what that is for you. And sometimes it's about resensitizing parts of your body that have maybe been overused in the past, like nipples that have breastfed many babies, right? Yeah. Or resensitizing parts of your body that haven't gotten a lot of attention in a long time, right? So if we don't touch a certain part of our body, or we don't experience touch, we might touch it and it might not feel like anything. It might feel numb, as you said. That's very common. So resensitizing is just about, reintroducing yourself to this part of you. It's about deepening your relationship.
Beautiful. That was a nice ending. So yeah, we've come to an end of our time. It was been really, I loved it. I love the insights, and thank you so much. Just quickly tell us about your gift that you have for our listeners.
Yeah. Well, clearly you can hear me tell you again that the most important relationship that you have in your life is the one that you have with yourself. And this relationship influences and impacts every single relationship that you have. So my free gift is an intentional intimacy practice series. So I've provided you a set of 5 audio practice sessions, if you will, for you to follow along and deepen your intimacy with self. You can download them, you can take them with you, you can put them on your phone and move out into the world. And the whole purpose is for you to deepen your relationship with yourself, so that when you are ready to share you with somebody else, you're really clear about who you are and what you want.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that gift. I'm gonna try it out myself.
Yeah,
good.
I love it.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.